everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Chad Prather Show. I'm going to call this a special edition because it's going to be a special episode. It's one that you're going to want to watch. You're going to want to share it with all of your friends. It's going to be one of those told you so kind of things, and it's also going to probably be one of those episodes that you're going to have that family member or that friend that they're going to want to listen to this, and you're going to say, they really need to hear this one. So I'm going to encourage you guys, pay attention. Also, if you happen to be watching this clip on Facebook, I want you to stop right now. I want you to go over to YouTube. I want you to search Chad Prather. I want you to go to my YouTube channel and start watching the podcast there, okay? And also go to where podcasts are downloaded. You can go to Stitcher, SoundCloud. You can go to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. I don't care. I don't care where you go. Whatever's convenient for you, because we like to have the numbers. We like to have the demographics and the analytics so that we can better serve you through the podcast. It's really all about you, the listener and the viewer. That's all we really care about. Isn't that right, Puppet Master Mark? Yeah?
That's absolutely right.
Are you alive this morning? Are you over there?
I am over here.
Yeah.
You can see me now.
He's so busy.
I'm up.
Look at him.
You know.
Pulling the strings over there, the Puppet
strings.
Master. It is a cold, dreary, rainy day in Dallas, Texas, and we're sitting here in Studio 22. Silent Herbert still hasn't spoken. He's still got the deer in the headlights look. Missing his body is what he is. We've got Hot News Natalie sitting over there.
Hi.
Hey, we're gonna get to some. We might get to some news later on.
There is some news.
Is there some news?
There's some news.
All right, hang tight for a second. We'll get back to you in a second. And then Party Foul Steve, of course, he's sitting over there. And
hey.
Yeah. Look at Steve's cup right there. He's a heathen. Read his cup.
What is it?
This is why my mother gets mad at me, Steve.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. Oh, you got to turn around to your logo. See, this is why my mother says. My mother gets on to me. I'm gonna introduce our guest, then I'll tell you what my mother said. David Harris Jr.
My man.
It's good to see you, all the way in from California.
Yes, sir.
I have been watching you and just paying attention to you for so long, and I love it because when I get on your YouTube videos and stuff, and I'm like, this dude looks mean. He coming at you. Coming at you. But David, I'm a fan and glad to be now a friend, and I'm excited about you. David wrote a book, came out last October, Why I Couldn't Stay Silent, and it is One Man's Battle as a Black Conservative. So this is going to be intense, but it's not just about that. Let me get there's the angle of the book right there. Look at him, handsome. An American flag, looking all patriotic. Does your wife like your bald head?
She does, yeah. She actually was the first. She told me I used to have long hair. I could pull it down to my chin.
Really?
And she said, why don't you shave your head? I think you'd look good bald. And I never went back. Now I bick it every morning. It's a lot easier.
My wife has never told me that. I've threatened to do. I'm like, let me just go ahead and shave it all off and don't have to deal with it. She's like, how about not? How about don't do that?
My husband is also bald.
Yeah.
You say yours is by choice. I'm not going to say his is by choice, but he's definitely sexy. That's for sure.
See, this hair right here, I got some hair, but see, that's not all mine. See, some of it I grew and some of it I glue. So there you go. Look at now, Steve is all mullet. He's all mullet.
Mine, it's no mullet.
Yeah.
It's all hair.
You're
Pantene's
a hippie.
calling him for commercials.
You are a hippie.
Bring it on.
Guy on stock and shampoo. David, here's what I want to talk about first. And because this is important. I want people to hear this because I was reading, you and I, we were talking about it, some folks that endorsed the book. We have some mutual friends.
Yeah.
And I was surprised to see that, and it's great. And some incredible endorsements there. And Candace Owens, who we all know and love, wrote the foreword for the book, and she's a good friend. And I appreciate you, man. I appreciate your voice. And what I really appreciate is, as a person, not only as a conservative, but a man of faith who is willing to stand against the tides and the winds of controversy and adversity that come your way for taking a stand. You've put up with a lot, obviously. We all do.
Yeah, we all do.
Yeah, it's like you said. I mean, if you're doing something right, you're going to get challenged.
Well, you talk about faith.
Yeah.
Right. Being a person of faith. And yes, I am, because I wouldn't be here, honestly, if it wasn't for God in my life. I literally would not be here. But in thinking about that, and the man that is faith himself, Jesus, that walked the earth, they hated him.
Yeah.
I mean, they killed him.
Yeah.
So, when you think about it, it's like we're suffering persecution. It comes at us, but I think to me that means we're doing something right. We're going the right direction.
Yeah. No, you're right. Jesus did what he did, and they crucified him, and still came back.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
and that's the key. That's the power that lives in you.
Yeah.
and that's the beauty of it. And people say, "Man, why do you do what you do?" And you don't have to catch all the stuff that you catch. I said, "But I got to stand for it."
Absolutely.
You know, I am. I want to get into this. I'm going to get ahead of myself by saying this, but you know, I have always been a guy who is willing to stand on that platform of pro-life. I believe in life. And I'm willing to, you know, the Bible says in Proverbs 31:8 says that, you know, you got to speak for those that don't have a voice. And that's a mission in my life. And you had a video that came out, went viral, and you spoke out on that. And we'll get into that in a minute, but I want you to go all the way back to young David Harris Jr.
All right.
And because you grew up in it, you had an interesting little journey.
Oh yeah.
Let's talk about that some.
Oh, well, my mom is white,
Mm-hmm.
and she's in heaven now. My dad is black, and he's just always a big, buff black man. I mean, he he looked mean. He's a big teddy bear. But they got divorced when I was 9. I was 9, and I left school like any normal day and went walking home, and my dad was sitting at the end of the block with a van all full of stuff. And we moved from Klamath Falls to Reading, and that was it. I didn't see my mom again for a couple months.
Wow.
In the courthouse. And it's interesting, the judge actually brought me into his chambers. I was 9, my sister was 2, and he asked me, he said, "Son, who do you want to live with? You got to choose one." And at 9 years old, the only thing I could think of was, well, I look more like my dad. You know, he's black, he's a man. Maybe he'll teach me how to be a man or whatever. I just said my dad, because I look more like him. And that decision changed and caused some things to happen in my life, where my dad showed love by roof over my head, food on my plate, never had to worry about that. He actually took me out of Oregon because things my mom were doing that wasn't actually good and safe for me. I didn't find that out till years later, till actually a couple of years ago. And so the dynamic there from dealing with what I felt was not feeling loved, because I'm a words of affirmation, physical touch kind of guy.
Yeah.
If you know about the 5 love languages.
Yeah, I speak words of affirmation.
Yeah.
And I also speak gift giving. So
There you go.
I hate putting that out there because then my wife's like, but I hear words of affirmation too. So yeah.
So that started an interesting dynamic. I felt out of place growing up in predominantly white town in Northern California. I got flack from some of the black folks in town because most of my friends were white. I didn't choose a friend based on their color. I chose a friend based on who I got along with, you know, who I struck up a conversation with and who was nice. But then I also got flack from obviously the white folks, the racist. At one point, I had to have my good friend, a white guy, pick up my girlfriend at her house to take her to the semi-formal so that I could be with her.
No kidding.
Because if they would have known that they didn't know I was seeing her, they wouldn't have let her go.
Right.
So I dealt with that. I dealt with my share of that throughout the years, my teenage years. And then October 10th, 1993 is when God stepped in and transformed everything.
What happened with that? What was the circumstance around that?
So I had 16, 17 years old. I went from smoking a lot of weed, drinking a lot, partying a lot, to finding out at about 16 and a half or so that I could make a lot of money selling. So
Yeah.
I had a pager on. It'd go off 50 to 100 times a day from people wanting weed. Crank was a thing in Northern California at the time, acid, shrooms, whatever. And my girlfriend, Jennifer, at the time, her mom was a single parent. Jennifer was her only daughter. She was overly protective. She had one boyfriend that she was seeing before me that was sitting on her bed in the middle of the daytime. And her mom came home and walked in and went off the hook on him. "What are you doing in my daughter's room? You better get out of there. You got no business in there."
Mm-hmm.
So I was over at her house October 9th, and I had just gotten there, and I was in her room. We were laying down. We weren't doing anything yet. But her mom came home. She was supposed to be gone all weekend at a church retreat. She came home, and we were just like waiting for a pot or a pan or a knife or a gun or at least the police or something. And she walked in the room, and she said, "What's going on?" And Jennifer said, "We're just hanging out." And then her mom said the craziest thing. She said, "Well, will she stay in the night?" I mean, it was like a supernatural peace from God because he knew what was going to happen the next day. And so Jennifer said, "Yeah, he was going to." And then she said, "Well, you at least going to go to church tomorrow?" And I said, well, this is my chance to look like a goody two-shoes. So I said,
Yeah.
we can go to my grandpa's church. Hint, hint, my grandpa's a pastor. I wouldn't go to church. And she said, okay. And she shut the door. So the next morning, I wake up, and I used to wake and bake. Wake up and get baked and start drinking 40, Old English or something back then.
Yeah.
And I woke
No
up.
Schlitz malt liquor.
Yeah, no Schlitz malt liquor.
I ain't represent.
You ain't keeping it real.
Give it a rip.
What's y'all rah? Love that. No,
Love
that's
it.
good. Love it.
I love it.
So the next day I wake up and I'm buttoning up. Tell you the date of this. I'm buttoning up a purple jean shirt.
Mm-hmm.
That's not only got jean, but it's a jean. Like you can see the grooves. It's
Right.
purple. And I'm thinking today seems really different. I haven't smoked anything yet. I haven't drank anything yet. Today's a different day. And my grandpa's church service started at 2:00. No, my pager didn't go off one time. Full gospel Kojic church. Just get down, full gospel choir going crazy. And the beginning of service, the choir would be singing, and then somebody would stand up in the middle of the audience and testify as to what God was doing in their life.
Mm-hmm.
And then the choir would praise, and the people would shout, and then they'd sit down, and then the choir would go off again, and then somebody else would stand up. And over this time, it was becoming evident that God was real, and that He was actively working in people's lives. And not only was I missing out, but I was doing the devil's work. I had my pager on in church. So
You're looking to make a deal from the third pew.
So, yeah, right?
I got to bounce.
Pager didn't go off one time. I'm having this internal conflict where I feel like, I felt like I needed to stand up and just thank God that I was alive and not in jail or juvie or whatever. But it was like, who are you to stand up and say anything? You deal drugs.
Yeah.
And it all broke, and I stood up, and all I remember saying is, I'm just glad I'm still here after 18 years. And I don't remember what I said after that, but the power of God hit me and flooded my being, and I took off running literally around the church. It wasn't a big church, but I ran down the front, out the back, down the front 3 times. Felt like 1,000 tons of weights were lifted off my shoulders. Things visibly looked different to me. And I got back to my seat, and all I could think is, you know what? I can leave this whole world behind, all the partying, all the drugs, everything, but I really like this girl, Jennifer. What about this girl, Jennifer? And I really felt like I heard God speak to me and say, don't worry about her. Just keep loving on me right now.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did turn and look at her, she had tears streaming down her cheeks, and she had her hands raised. And I heard God speak to me and say, there's your bride. So we got married April 17th that next year. And this coming April next month will be 25 years.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What a story, man. Isn't it crazy when you look at life, and especially as you get older, and you look back on it, you're like, man, the things that I have been saved from and saved to, and because people would hear that story and they would say, oh, you had some big emotional experience or something like that. Well, how do you do that? Well, I mean, because it's, you can multiply that story by billions throughout history of people who have had that experience where God became real to them and it became a real thing, and it met them however they needed to be met in that moment. And everybody has that story. I remember when I was at the University of Georgia, I was a freshman at University of Georgia, and man, I'd partied all weekend long. Just got crazy all weekend long, just doing unmentionables. And so, but Monday came around. I had a buddy of mine. He was a little black bodybuilder, loved Jesus. And he was one of these little prophetic guys. He just in your face, black and white. Everything was black and white. You got to get straight.
Nice.
And so he's like, you going with me tonight to a Bible study because I need a ride. So here we go, my little burgundy Grand Am, my 1994 Grand Am. Here we go. It was older. It was older than that. I think it was like a 1988 Grand Am because it was 91. This was 91. And I go to this Bible study, and this dude comes out, and he was really good. I'm looking back on this guy was a really gifted Bible teacher, but he comes out wearing like a toga robe, he was kind of being in character, Yeah. And he does this whole thing on the Sermon on the Mount. It's funny. I was like, I don't think Jesus wore a toga robe, but whatever. What he was going for. So anyway, afterwards, all these people were going to go get coffee, get ice cream and coffee and stuff like that. And so my buddy, Sam, he says, I'm going to jump in the back seat. Jerry, the guy that taught the Bible study, he's going to ride with us. Now, I got a cooler in the back of my car. In the trunk, I can still hear the beer sloshing around in the melted ice. And I'm driving, and I'm starting to get a little sweaty. And I'm like, this guy's sitting right here by me. And I'm like, roll down the window here. And I'm kind of like getting out of the window. I'm like, oh, this guy knows everything about me. He knows all. I'm feeling guilt. I'm feeling conviction. And I'm like, this guy knows. And I've got my head halfway out the window right there. And I remember right where I was on the highway, Athens, Georgia. And I can hear that stuff sloshing around the trunk. And I heard God as clear as a bell say, he doesn't know anything about you, but I know everything.
Wow.
And it was in that moment, man. We got there. I couldn't even go in there and eat ice cream with everybody. I had to pull my buddy Sam out in the parking lot. And I said, bro, we got to pray.
Wow.
Right now. I mean, we got to get some things together on this. And so it's
That's
weird.
so
and
good.
it changes your life. I mean, it launches
absolutely.
you into a destiny.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But you went through, because from there, you went from, you've always been a hustler because you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You got into business. So you went from selling that, and you've always had a business mind because it wasn't long.
Yeah,
you
apparently.
launched into business and,
Yeah.
and got pretty successful. How'd that go? How'd that come around?
Yeah. So my first job after I put my drug game down was Round Table Pizza. And God gave me the perfect job. I was rolling dough. And so, well, yeah, no pun intended, right? What do you think about that? I'm rolling dough, but I had my own.
You went from rolling dope to rolling dough.
Yes.
That's when Jesus takes the pee out right there.
Exactly. But I had my own little room to myself for 8 hours a day, and great, full-time job for me coming out of what I was coming out of. And I'd prop my Bible up open with 2 pieces of dough, and I would just read and memorize. So it was a perfect job. But then at 20, so I was 18 when that happened. At 20 years old, I started my first company, direct sales company, and was pretty successful. We were doing a couple $1 million a year as a little small business. So here I am, 22, 23 years old with $200,000 a month going to my bank account. I felt like Peter walking on water.
Yeah.
And then I sank.
Then you sank.
And I sank hard because, I started hanging out with the wrong friends. I felt like I had arrived. So I got back in the bar scene, and before I knew it, that just started to pull me under. Man, it's been a roller coaster ride for me.
Yeah. Where was your wife in all of that? How was she feeling?
So she's always been very loyal. She's always been by my side. And unfortunately, a lot of times when I would fall, we'd fall together. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like whatever we did together. We didn't really have a struggle where I was on the outside trying to do one thing, and she's like, "No, we need to do the other thing." We just kind of rolled with it together.
Yeah.
So that was probably a blessing in that at least we were together. And
So you're telling me that you had this major experience with God.
Yeah.
And then everything wasn't peaches and cream after that. It wasn't always rosy and heavenly and blue skies.
Yeah, I never had to worry about nothing else.
Yeah.
Never.
Dandelions everywhere you step.
Oh yeah, roses and no.
David, it's interesting you say that. My life verse, when you talked about Peter, is Matthew 14:31, and it was when Peter stepped out of the boat because Jesus called him to do that, and he took his eyes off the Lord. And the verse is, immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him and said, "Oh, you of little faith, why did you doubt?" Because I'm always trying to fix everything myself, right? We all are. But if you just let God do what he can do, amazing things can happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, Party Foul Steve's got a verse in Romans. It's some vessels are created for dishonor. Which Paul was talking about toilets in that. Yeah, so there you go. Yeah.
I'd always heard that verse preached too, Nelly, like you're talking about, like, it was the cares of this life, or it was the, people preaching on it or talking about, your bills aren't getting paid, or it's all the heartaches that you're dealing with in life. And I'm like, no, for me, it was the opposite. I had plenty of money. I'd buy the bar out, and then it turned into a party at the weekend. And that took my eyes off God. Yeah. And then I sank. But like you said, Natalie, he's always right there. He's so faithful. He doesn't leave us. Yeah.
One of my favorite, Paul said to Timothy, he said, hey, even when we're faithless, he's faithful. Yeah. Because he can't, can contradict himself. I mean, he's going to be faithful. And I love it. I've always told people, I said, I pray for 2 things every day, for grace and for mercy. I pray for grace that God will give me the power to do what he created me to do. And then mercy, because I don't deserve it, And the scripture says it is mercies from everlasting to everlasting, which means it's eternal. Yeah. If you're willing to ask for it. Peter said, look, God he works with the humble, but he marshals his forces against the proud. So humble yourself under the mighty hand of God, and that's the thing, because he's going to give mercy there. Yeah. And it's because I'm telling you, man, you and I both know, and everybody in this room knows me well enough to know I've marched through some places where it's like, I might not should have come out of that.
Yeah.
You know? And I think
too.
that's what I try to people that know me well, they know that I pastored for a little while. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's
I
awesome.
pastored for about 12 years.
Wow.
And so pastored 3 different churches. And so wound up going through a divorce, absolutely broken. Went into the cave, hid out for 4 or 5 years, and just said, I've lost my voice. I can't.
Wow.
I don't have a platform to speak anymore. How do you get up there and tell people how to help their lives when your life's falling apart? And so, again, God's faithful.
Yeah.
And I always knew that there was some way. I just felt like there was some way that God was going to bring me back and give me a platform to speak. And there were times through those periods where I was like, I don't want to talk to spiritual leaders. I don't want to talk to pastors. I'm mad at the whole system.
Wow.
I don't want to be a part of church. I don't want any of that stuff, and I want out of it. And I think that's what people have got to hear, because I truly believe, could be wrong, only eternity will tell, but I truly believe, I think I've done more good with my voice without a title in front of my name in the last 6-7 years than I did 12 years I was pastoring. 'Cause I was a great preacher teacher. I was a terrible pastor. That's terrible, pastor.
Not all preachers should pastor.
You're right.
Not all teachers should pastor.
Exactly.
It's a different calling. But I definitely think that you're meeting a lot of people, and probably a lot more. It's kind of like me. I felt like I was missing something. I felt originally like I was called to be a preacher.
Yeah.
But then that was putting me in a box. Lance Wallnau talks about the 7 mountains.
Right.
And it wasn't until 8-9 years ago that I realized I wasn't called to be in the church mountain.
Yeah.
I was called to be in the business mountain.
Yeah.
And bring the kingdom with me and to everything I did in business.
Yeah.
And now we're in the media mountain.
Yeah.
But he's still
exactly.
with us. Yeah.
And that was kind of my, I finally gave myself permission to say, okay, well, I can use kingdom principles in the marketplace.
Yeah,
and it
absolutely.
works. And I started reading about that. But I always knew there was a voice there, and like you said, you bring it into the media. Like that's why I refuse to cast off places like Hollywood, because I know there are people that are there who believe like you and I do. There are people, but their voice gets diminished because of the outspoken ones that really operate in a big live deception.
Yeah.
There's funny to me that
there.
Yeah. Did you see the recent headline where it talked about Jussie Smollett? The cast of Empire wanted to send him an encouraging letter and stuff, and that was the cast. The crew said, "No way, no,
Really?
no," because you're talking about people working behind the scenes. They don't tend to hold on to the same crazy liberal ideologies and stuff
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
That the engineers and the folks behind the scenes, they tend to be a little more blue collar.
Right.
And they said, "No, we're not signing a card to Justin."
Yeah, a lot more offense to that. It's
But see,
interesting.
I think that the platforms of entertainment, the platforms of media, people say, well, it can't be redeemed. I say, it can be redeemed. They said, no, it's too big of a deal. I said, how what makes you think anything's big for God? It's not.
Yeah, absolutely.
On the flip side of that, I have people who say, well, I don't really want to deal with this. It's just a small thing. I said, it ain't small to God. Is that what you're saying? Well, yeah, it's just not. It's a small thing. I said, well, then by saying that, you're assuming something's big for God, and it's not.
Right.
So I think that these places, and the kingdom comes in, you got that right government in place, and the right order happens, and
there's a lot of shaking going on.
There's a lot of shaking.
And things have to be shaken up before they can come into a different alignment. So
that's exactly right.
We got to hope and believe that some of that's going to start to happen.
Yeah, and that happens in our individual lives as well.
Absolutely.
God's going to shake everything that can be shaken.
Yep.
Only that which can't be shaken remains.
Yeah.
The only thing that can't be shaken is the kingdom. Come on,
right.
Natalie.
I didn't know we were going to church today.
Oh, we're going to church, baby.
But I
Take
came
them to
prepared.
church.
I have an offering plate. I mean,
But see, the problem is
good.
you ain't going to spend it on kingdom purposes. You're going to be at the bar buying the drinks for everybody. Steve, I know you.
I'm not going to buy them for
good.
everybody.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
You took my card away.
Yeah. Steve's always saying, he's like, man, if we fail on this, we could start a church. I ain't starting a church with you, Steve. Bless your heart.
It'd be fun.
I know it. Your mama didn't beat you enough, man.
Oh, yes, she did.
She didn't beat you enough.
Southern
Yeah.
Baptist preacher granddaddy.
Oh,
I got
Lord.
my beatings in
Oh, yeah.
church.
Yeah.
All the way out the back door.
So what was next? What was the next step? Obviously, you turned it around, and you had a journey after all of that.
Yeah, it was an up and down. God got a hold of me again, and then my business that was doing so well in 2004, I had to shut it down.
Yeah.
And I was used to a different lifestyle, and so I chose to go work on the road for a friend of mine that had a similar company
Mm-hmm.
in order to afford that lifestyle for my family. And that was about 7 years of hell, because later on, God revealed to me, David, I never asked you to go away from your family.
Yeah.
To earn a living, make money.
Yeah.
So I lived under a lot of depression, a lot of alcohol abuse,
Mm-hmm.
and that took even a deeper turn when I was still dabbling with. I went back to dabbling with cocaine because it's kind of a thing you do when you're drinking. Is like you got to keep the party started, keep it going. So
Sobers you up so you can drink some more.
right.
Yeah.
So I'm dealing with this massive amount of depression, drinking a lot. I'm doing coke, and my friend and I go get some coke, and it won't crush up. It's mushy. If you know anything about cocaine, it's rocky, right?
You needed to be dry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it didn't do that. So he said, "Well, let's smoke it." So I said, "Okay," and took a hit, and he said that was crack.
Oh wow.
So that started a 2-year journey battle with crack cocaine, where I almost overdosed and died in 2011. In the moment when that happened in 2011, I took a hit, and you're supposed to blow it out pretty fast. I was holding on to it because I felt like Superman, and my eyeballs, Chad, started doing this that fast. Like you can't make your eyeballs go up and down that fast by yourself. And I heard this voice right in the middle of that happening. I heard this voice that said, "Don't freak out. Don't freak out. It'll pass. It'll pass." And after about 60 seconds, it stopped. So the next day, I called my friend that I wasn't with, but had introduced me to this drug. And I told him what happened. And he said, "David Harris, you need to stop." He said, "Your body was about to overdose. If you would have freaked out, your heart would have exploded. You'd be dead." So about 2 weeks after that, my wife didn't know what was going on, but she knew something wasn't right. She moved out. She took the kids. And Sunday morning rolls around. I'm in this big, huge 3,500 square foot house by myself. I had cleaned all the tools that I had, smoked everything I had, and it was just come to the end of myself totally, and said, "God, okay, I'm done. I made a mess of my life. What do you want me to do?" And I heard him say, "Go to church." And I said, "Have you been to my church, Bethel, on a Sunday? Right now, it's packed. It gets really packed." And I heard him say, "Go to church." And I'm like, how am I going to argue with God? Yeah. I've got to do what I got to just obey. And as soon as I just decided to obey and listen, I just immediately broke, started bawling. I was bawling all the way to the church, and got to the church, got to the road that goes to the church, and the cars are lining the street. It's that packed. It's that full. Get all the way up to the top of the hill. Our church is on a little hill, and I see cars everywhere, and I pull past the parking lot full sign. It's a parking lot full, and the very first parking spot's open. So I parked. I walk inside, and the overflow is packed. The bleachers, at the time we had bleachers in our church, they're packed. And I'm standing there looking out over the audience from the back, and I get this tap on my shoulder, and this lady says, "Are you looking for a seat?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, you can have mine." Right in the middle, third row from the front on the left. So I'm like, kind of like, okay, I go sit down, and the worship had just ended, bulletin had just ended, and the pastor, Eric Johnson, gets up to speak. And he says, "Today I'm going to talk to you about the prodigal son coming home and walking into his inheritance." And I turned and told one of the other pastors what I had just been through, that I almost overdosed. He's all, "David, that's just not you." Obviously hadn't been going to church for a while.
Right.
So he put his hand on my chest and he prayed. And I got prayer from a couple other friends of mine there as well. And I got completely delivered from every desire and had no withdrawals or nothing from that day. Never touched it again. But I still didn't lay down the alcohol. That was the biggest thing for me. So all these amazing encounters with God, right? And talk about, God's redeeming factor and his faithfulness and his desire to not give up on his kids. He's a good father. So like, what good father would ever give up on their child? You'd never give up on your kid.
Mm-hmm.
And we're fallible. We're capable of sin. He's not even capable of that. So that led me on a journey to about a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago. I went to a course called Restoring the Foundations, where it's an amazing course where they actually walk you through. I had to do like a 15-page bio on my history, my parents, my grandparents, great-grandparents, the stuff they dealt with. It was amazing to see how many of my relatives. I had to call my grandma to get information about her parents, about my mom who's in heaven now, the other side of the family's parents. I had to talk to my dad about stuff. That's when he let me know the reason why he took me out of Redding. If I go back to when I told the judge, I want to live with my dad, he said, well, I had to get you out of that situation because your mom wasn't around. He had left because my mom was doing some things honorable. And then he'd check on me, and I was just with the babysitter, and he was like, I just got to get my kid out of there and make sure he's taken care of. So at this course, Restoring the Foundations, it takes you to ungodly beliefs that we can have that we don't even know are there that actually drive our life. And if I could tell you just 2 of the ungodly beliefs that were broken off me that I realized and I had no idea were guiding my life, 2 of the 13 that were revealed in this thing for me was I make bad decisions. That was actually a belief of mine. And that's traced back to me telling the judge I want to live with my dad. Because for my whole teenage years growing up, I hated that I lived with my dad.
Yeah, you made that decision and you told yourself
internally
that's what you do.
I held myself responsible
Yeah.
for telling the judge that I want to live with my dad. Because I didn't see him loving me by a roof over my head. I didn't know he was taking care of me in that way. I just saw that I didn't get words of affirmation.
Yeah.
I didn't get physical touch. This was birthday or holiday. I didn't get any of that stuff. And then I'd go live with my mom for 2 months out of the year, and she would give all that stuff to me. So I had so much bitterness and resentment towards my dad, but at the core of it was a belief that I make bad decisions. And the second one was the women I love the most and need the most will leave me. Because at 9, again, I just didn't see my mom anymore. So there was 13 total ungodly beliefs that had been driving my life that I had no idea about. And when God revealed those things to me and then revealed the truths to those things to me, it broke so much off my life. And that actually is what delivered me from alcohol. I haven't had a drink in over a year and a half.
That's great.
And from that freedom, and I'll tell you, when you travel a lot, you ever get somewhere or you left the house, you're at the airport, and you realize you left something behind, and it was kind of important? You know that sinking feeling you get when you realize, oh, I left it behind.
Yep.
I'm leaving this house with this couple where I just went through this Restoring the Foundations, and I returned my rental car. I'm in the shuttle going to the airport, and that sinking feeling hits me hard. Oh, what did I leave? I left something. I checked. I got my luggage. I got my laptop bag. I got my phone. I got my sunglasses. I got my water bottle. I have everything. What'd I leave? It was spiritual baggage. And from that day on, I've felt like, if I could say this, I felt like it may not be the right terminology, but, if a girl was very promiscuous, willingly just whatever, and just didn't care, and then she was to get her virginity back, that's how I felt inside since that time. Wow. I felt like I got my virginity back spiritually.
Yeah.
So
Steve,
now I'm
need
free.
Virginity? Steve, whatever. Steve needs to take the course.
Easy now.
We all could take the course.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, we all could. But
that's awesome.
Yeah. So that right there. I think I believe, and I absolutely feel that there was the final. Not that I'm not gonna have struggles again, but never with alcohol or drugs again.
That's great.
Yeah, it's been completely broken, and it's from that freedom that I was able to then write a book.
Yeah. Let's talk about the book, and let's talk about. When you did the video that you did about abortion, did you expect it to go viral?
No, I didn't even think about it. You mean in 2016, my first one?
Yeah.
No, I didn't think about it. I just felt that where these two people wanted to take our country, they wanted to become the leaders of our country.
Yeah.
There was such a stark difference and contrast between one saying babies have no rights, even up to the time of pregnancy if they're in the womb, which is murdering babies, and then one saying I'm pro-life, period, and we need to protect the babies.
Right.
And So I just got on my Facebook page, a couple thousand friends, no public figure page, and just ranted. As a American, as a Christian, as a black man, as a husband, as a father, this is what I see is at stake. And it went crazy.
Yeah.
And I was flooded with messages from support. I was flooded with messages from hate, which always seems to come from the black community. If I can be honest, it's crazy. Black, sometimes Hispanic, but I don't have white folks calling me coon.
Yeah.
But
and we talked about it off air. We were with John Miller, our good friend John Miller. Just saw him in D.C. and we were sitting down talking. And I love John's perspective. He hosts the White House Brief on Blaze TV.
Yeah, I love John.
And John's just so real and so honest and so humble. He's just a kind dude, And so he was like, I got white people that are liberals who are saying we want to hang you from a tree.
Wow.
But yet you want to call everybody on the right racists, and and he said they call me coon. They could all this different stuff, and he said, Uncle Tom and everything else.
Right.
And of course, he and I go back and forth because Uncle Tom was the hero in the book.
Yeah, absolutely. If they read the book.
If they read the book.
Yeah, they haven't read the book.
Everybody wants to call you Uncle Tom. They don't know what the story's about.
Right.
But no, it's a shame. It really is. I mean, how dare you get off the so-called plantation?
Yeah.
Which my understanding, you were always conservative, weren't you?
My mom always told me to pay attention to how people vote
Yeah.
and not what they say. Politicians, pay attention how they vote.
Yeah.
So I knew Obama actually had voted against a bill that would stop infanticide.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I never voted for him.
Yeah.
I was just like, I can't support anybody. The Democrat Party platform is pro-choice. It's pro-baby murder. I could never support that.
Well, I've always been, like I said, like I told you, my driving force in life has always been the fact that I am pro-life.
Yeah.
I mean, all the way back to college. I used to write an op-ed piece for the university newspaper, and there was this guy, I still remember him to this day, I remember his name. He came from the left, I came from the right, and we were always constantly debating on issues like abortion, and abortion was a strong issue even then. I mean, I would debate anybody on the issue. And I've never been a registered Republican. Still to this day, I'm not in a political party, but I've never voted for the left. I can't because it is a party of murdering babies. You got to have a voice for those who don't have a voice.
Absolutely.
And as a father of 5 and having experienced one miscarriage in the midst of all of that stuff, it matters. I mean, that's a baby. That's a human life. That's a child.
Absolutely.
And the idea that you can, first of all, get up in so many churches in a pulpit and defend it or defend the left, or it's an atrocity.
It is.
It is an atrocity.
Yeah.
And so I appreciate you for taking a stand on that, because I know you caught a lot. I know I catch a lot. I can only imagine you, especially being a black guy, caught a lot. A lot.
Yeah, I catch my share, but again, we all do. We all do. But it's the good stuff out there.
Yeah.
I share a story in my book. My wife came out publicly to support Trump because of his pro-life stance, and had never came out publicly about the fact that her mom was planning on aborting her.
Mm.
And her mom was in the abortion clinic and decided to leave at the last minute, and had my wife. My wife didn't find this out until her mom was on hospice. She was battling cancer, and she didn't win that fight. She didn't have it as well, but she was battling cancer. We had hospice at our house. She was living in our house, and my wife's mother's sister, so Jennifer's aunt, was over visiting, and just kind of out of nowhere, as we're just hanging out in the kitchen area, Jennifer's aunt says to her mom, "Jeanette, aren't you so glad you left that abortion clinic?"
Wow.
Jennifer had no idea. So she then felt even more elated that her mom left and had her, and was able to, meet me and have even the hell I put her through. We had a lot of good times too.
Yeah.
But we got 2 amazing, beautiful kids. So she shared that story on Facebook, and went pretty viral. And then one of the miracles that I also share in there is that a friend of mine named David had a girl that he knew that was contemplating having an abortion, and he didn't know if he'd be able to say the right thing to her. So he sent her that message that went crazy, and he sent her my wife's testimony, and she decided to keep the baby.
Wow.
So a year later or so, he sent me a picture of little baby Ian.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Miracle. And that's a miracle. And it's a miracle of life. And I mean, and that's the thing. If folks have got to get that thing right there. That's so much handsome. You can go to davidharrisjr.com and get it. I'm going to prop that thing up so we can see it on the wide shot as well. That's, I can't wait to get into that book. I really can't. But davidharrisjr.com, you can get the book. But that whole deal, though, I mean, once you did that, because I used to joke. I had a joke. I had a video that went crazy back during the debates as well, when Hillary and Trump, and I was watching those after the primaries, which were a crazy circus, and I made the joke on a video where I said, trying to pick which candidate to choose is like trying to pick which venereal disease you're most okay living with for the next 4 to 8 years, you know. And so, I think when Trump got elected, I was like, what is going on? Because for me it was.
So you weren't pro-Trump before
I became Trump. He won me over.
Yeah, he's doing a lot.
He won me over. Before he was elected, he won me over.
Okay.
I also joke about it. I say I went into the voting booth and there was 2 boxes. There was Hillary Clinton and then there was not Hillary Clinton. And I made sure to vote not Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
I'd have voted for that wall over there before I voted for Hillary. But now that we got Donald, we're going to get a wall anyway. But anyway, a vote for Donald's a vote for the wall.
That's right.
And he won me over, and he won me over on a couple of things. So one thing was I watched his children and how they responded to him, and I watched his grandchildren and how they responded to him. And I was like, this is not a mean-spirited man.
That's right.
I mean, he's a billionaire, mogul, playboy. He's got his past. He's got his history.
Right.
But, you know, I watched the whole deal, and then I've watched since, and I'm like, this guy, he hasn't done anything that's not pro-America.
Yeah.
He hasn't done, I can't say that about Barack Obama.
Right. No, not at all.
He hasn't done, I can't say that about Hillary Clinton.
No.
But I haven't seen Donald Trump. And then people say, oh, well, you know, and I know people are commenting right now because you're trolling and you're on the thing and you're leaving your comment, blah, 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 blah. But you're also living in the best America in your lifetime you've ever lived in right now.
That's exactly right.
You got more money in your bank account.
Yep.
And if you don't, it's your own fault. And let me tell you something, the economy's booming. Unemployment's at a historical low for blacks and Hispanics. You got a GDP of 4%, which, you know, somehow he found that magic wand that Obama said couldn't be found. Yeah. So you're living your best life right now. And if you're not, it's your fault.
That's right.
See, that's another thing. Poverty's a spirit.
It absolutely
you can't. You talk about leaving baggage behind. I got people. If people that are impoverished, you can throw all the money at them in the world. They can win the lottery, and they'll be back in poverty in a matter of time.
Most do,
because it is a spirit.
Yeah, it's a mindset.
You got to break that off.
Yeah.
And so, you know, these folks out here, Trump derangement, that's a real deal. These people are losing their minds. People talking. Salon.com did a article recently talking about how Trump's messing up people's sex life. What?
Oh my gosh.
What? If you think about Donald Trump while you having sex, you got other issues.
Yeah, you got some other problems going on.
You got other issues.
I love Donald Trump. I think about him a lot, but not during that time.
No,
not during that time.
Maybe Melania.
Maybe Melania. There you go. That's when Orange Man bad. No. You've been to the White House a couple times.
Yes.
How was that? I mean, they just locked the doors because they saw a black man coming and they were like, we're so
they
racist?
Said absolutely not. Yeah, they said, no, these black folks can't come in. No, he invited all 400 of us in October
right?
For Young Black Leadership Summit. I spoke at that, and he invited us all to the White House, and I got to give him my book, and he saw that and said, whoa, and here, take a picture. He took a picture with it. And then later I realized I didn't get him to sign one, so I was able to go back to the White House just a few weeks ago. And this time, I made sure I got his signature on a book now too. So, but he's so genuine. Yeah, he's real. He's genuine. He takes the time to listen to the people. He takes the time to share his thoughts. He doesn't have to take time out of his day, to do that. We're not, celebrities like Obama's always bringing in all the stars and giving them all medals and stuff. And it's like, they're all patting themselves on the back. He wants to talk to and speak to people, Americans. Yeah, and he took time to honor us. And so it was amazing. Yeah, always good to.
People don't realize, and I know a lot of folks who have been around him personally, met him personally. First of all, he's from Queens. He's a puncher. He's a counter puncher. He's going to knock you out, and he's going to get personal with you. That's just the nature of the man. That's how he is. And you just have to understand that mindset of where he comes from and what he's been through. And sometimes you have to get a little bit of a sense of humor because he's funny dude. I mean, he's got a sense of humor, but people just don't get it. I mean, man can't do anything right, but. My buddy Terrence Williams almost got himself killed trying to get the White House the other day. I was like, Terrence, I texted him. I was like, dude.
I was talking to him last night.
What? Yeah, because he just had the surgery a couple days ago.
He did, Friday.
And I'm like, dude.
Got released yesterday.
Because I was headed up to CPAC and was texting him. I was like, dude, if you're still in the hospital, I'll come see you. And Terrence, he's always good humored and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I said, man, I'm praying for you. And brutal.
Yeah.
I hope
not
Terrence
good.
owns Lyft after all that.
I do too. No, I mean he had a broken neck.
I know.
In the hospital.
And honestly, could have been really bad.
The ambulance drivers, the EMTs, made him walk from the car and get up in the ambulance because they didn't believe he was hurt bad enough to need a stretcher.
Oh my gosh.
So he's got something with the hospital too. 'Cause that I'm sure made it worse.
Yeah, because I talked
It
to
was
him
bad all
the day
around.
of the accident. I talked to him. I said, "Dude, what can we do?" Well, because he was in D.C. Like I said, he was on the way to the White House.
Yeah.
The whole deal. And so he'll get to go back.
Yeah, he will.
What's it? So, talk to me a little bit about the whole Brexit thing. I mean, your opinion on the movement, where it is, where it needs to be, where it's going.
Well, I think
Is it a successful movement at this point?
it's just started.
Yeah.
I think it's been a success in that they've had 2 of them so far that have been pretty packed events. I spoke at the one in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
Candace invited me to speak at the one in Richmond, and I had missed my daughter's birthday because I was at the White House meeting the president.
Mm-hmm.
And she wasn't supposed to be home. She was going to go on a trip, then she decided not to.
Oh, wow.
So then I missed the actual birthday dinner. So I couldn't miss the birthday party that they were having for when I got home. So I didn't get to go to that one. But Candace is amazing. I mean, she's tenacious. She's driven. She knows what she wants to do and how she wants to do it. And she's got a lot of people that support her in this movement. So I think it's been successful. I think it's only continued to grow and become more successful in waking Americans up, obviously Black Americans, to realize that they've got a voice, they've got a vote that matters, and it shouldn't just be blindly given away to any political party. We're not saying just give it to the conservatives or just give it to Republicans. It's like, hey, look at your value system, look at what lines up with your value system, and then vote your values. And for a large part of the Black community, we've got a rich heritage of faith. To go back to that,
Yeah.
And if I don't know how we ever got to a point, especially 60 years ago, when I think the Black community was even stronger in faith across the board than it is today, and largely in part because a lot of the Black pastors that are supporting the Democrat Party, I don't know how people of faith could align themselves with a party that believes in murdering babies.
Right.
I just don't. But we've got to wake the people up, and so I think Candace is on the road to doing that. One person can't do it. I couldn't do it by myself. She's not going to do it by herself. It's going to take a team of people networking together in unity in order to really bring this to the focal point.
So Candace wakes up one day and all of a sudden Kanye West is on the team. And all of a sudden, boom, that's out there, which turns into a media crazy frenzy circus and all that thing. Do you think it was good overall for the movement or was it a distraction?
That's a great question. I actually wrote an entire chapter called Kanye in my book where I talk about the Kanye effect. I think it was amazingly good for the movement because he couldn't take it back, even though it was a few months later and he maybe tried to backtrack or whatever. As soon as he said, after, again, 18 months of silence on Twitter to his millions and millions of followers, he had not tweeted a thing. I share in there what I believe he was battling with, and I think he was battling with whether he should stand up and speak his voice on what I think God was actually trying to speak to him. Mm-hmm. And so his first tweet out, I like the way Candace Owens thinks, put her on the map. It immediately drew attention to a Black conservative, and her videos, she puts it out there. She's accurate, she's articulate, she's smart, she knows her stuff, and so it immediately gave Black people approval, if you will, or even an option to even listen to a Black conservative, because that's just it's unheard of in the Black community. So I think the approval rating doubled in a week or two immediately, and I think that started a momentum that it wasn't undone when then Kanye backtracked a little bit. So I think it was great for the movement. I can't wait for more prominent conservative Blacks to get up and speak their heart on the issue as well. And it's a work in progress. Yeah, but it's a fight we're willing to fight.
I admired him for doing what he did, and gosh, he's such a lightning rod anyway, and to do what he did, and boom, there it is. And people have differing opinions on it, but I appreciate it. I mean, he took a massive hit for doing what he did.
Yeah, absolutely.
Still takes it on a daily. Folks like actress Stacey Dash. I mean, she's been an outspoken conservative for a long, long time, and also my celebrity crush. But whatever, we'll leave that. Stacy, if you want to come on the show. But no, I love it. I love watching it, and I don't care what I just love common sense. You know,
Yeah.
I don't care what color face it comes out of, as long as the common sense is coming out. And that's what's happened. Is so much deception has happened,
Yes.
and people are living with a brainwashing. It really is, and it starts young. I mean, I've got really good friends who they grew up in the black community. They said, "Man, my grandmother taught me how to milk the system. You know, I can't." And now you got these candidates that are coming along, and at least 3 of them are saying, "Well, let's consider reparations."
Right.
It's like because I think that you're seeing so many folks who are coming over to the right side. Now they got to buy them back.
Right. That's exactly
And
what
I'm
we're
like,
trying to do.
when can y'all get rid of this slavery mindset
Yeah.
and quit buying human beings?
Exactly. Because that's exactly what they're trying to do.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
But
It's a slave mentality. It's a plantation of the mind.
Yeah.
And it keeps people victimized by telling them they're a victim and telling them they need help.
Yeah.
No, we just need the opportunity to get up and get out and put our best foot forward with opportunities that we can run with, that give us the ability to change our own life.
Yeah. And you got to look at things. I mean, the numbers and the facts are right there. I mean, Planned Parenthood, they build their buildings right there within walking distance of urban communities.
Yeah.
They know what they're
80% of
doing.
them, they know exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, go read up on Margaret Sanger and get back to me on that whole deal. I mean, it's
Jews and blacks are weeds that need to be exterminated.
Exactly. I mean, it's crazy, and to continue buying into that thing, it's a brainwashing deal. And people look at me and they say, "How you a white dude? What do you know?" Not much, but I know common sense when I hear it and see it.
Yeah.
And I don't like to see people oppressed, and I hate seeing people on welfare, and I hate seeing people that are economically, impoverished, and I hate people fatherless. I hate seeing those things.
Yep.
It breaks my heart.
Yeah.
It does. Talk about. I got to get back to this Uncorked.
Yeah.
How'd that thing come around?
So my wife and I started that company, Uncorked Health and Wellness,
Yeah.
almost 6 years ago, actually. April will be 6 years. Health and wellness supplement company, products to just help you get the most out of your life. I'm drinking our super fruit herbal beverage that's good for you, actually gives you good mental clarity, focus, and energy. We got a detox that ladies love. They love to not feel bloated.
I need to get my wife detoxed.
And there's a lot of gluten intolerance issues out there. So there's a lot of constipation. I think we're a constipated nation.
Oh, I'm constipated right now.
Yeah. I got some detox
Yeah,
for you.
okay.
You ain't never been constipated.
I'm the most regular cat on the planet. Trust me.
So that's so we started that, which it God is so good because my verse I anchor my life to is all things work together for good. Mm-hmm. All things, the good, the bad, the ugly, the indifferent. He can cause all things to work together for good if you give him the opportunity to. And so the amazing thing about this is we've been able to see a lot of people's lives change for the better, getting people off too much coffee. A lot of police officers, sheriffs drinking pots of coffee a day to get through their day, and then it has really negative effects on your central nervous system. It can have really negative effects on your gut. So drinking that hot's a great alternative for that. We've seen some amazing transformations happen. And then I got to meet a lot of amazing people. That's how I got to meet Lance Wallnow. Mm-hmm. Rick Joyner had me on the show. He loves it. Gave us a great endorsement for it. Bill and Benny Johnson love it. And so, it's been an amazing journey to see that happen as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You folks get that through your website as well?
Uncorked.
You have Uncorked.
Uncorkedliving.com. Yeah.
Uncorkedliving.com.
Yep.
And you were slipping stuff I thought it was a drug deal going down outside. You slipped stuff to our president, the president of the network, Gaston Mooney. I was like, what y'all doing?
I gave him one of these.
You
I'll
trading the
give
good stuff.
I'll give you one. You were drinking coffee, so I didn't give you one yet.
I know. I had to.
I got some more for you.
Give me this thing right here.
Put that in my
See,
coffee.
Uncorked. This gives me some brain boost on it. Now, y'all.
It will.
I got Party Foul Steve's glasses
does.
because I left mine out in the
David,
car.
did you bring enough for everybody? 'Cause,
I do.
Natalie, why you always want
I'll
free
try.
stuff?
I'm just saying, if there's you got to share with the class.
Natalie's used to being pretty
I
and
got-
just getting stuff. There you go. Candace,
I
what
have
you
a couple
talking about
more.
over there? You
I got some more.
Sitting over there quiet as a church mouse back over there, hanging out. All right. You just mix this in water, huh?
Yeah, mix it with water. If you like
Uncorked
drinking,
it.
see if somebody likes drinking coffee, that's a great alternative.
Yeah.
Just put hot water in your mug,
Yeah.
pour that in there, stir it up. I think it tastes amazing, and you're going to get more mental clarity and energy, longer and longer lasting.
I love it.
Than you will off coffee with no crash.
Yeah.
And it's actually good for you.
I'm going to drink it here in a few minutes.
Yeah.
Give me some water to drink.
Is
in a
that
few minutes.
keto friendly?
It is keto.
That's the exact thing.
That's got to be my question.
David,
Yeah.
I asked him that walk across the parking
It is
lot. didn't I?
keto
It's
friendly.
keto
Absolutely.
friendly.
No sugar.
We dedicate 5 minutes on every episode to keto.
Right.
Dude.
We're all about keto, man. We're all about keto.
Nice.
I got converted to keto. Clean living keto, healthy, right kind of clean keto.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
good.
it took me a year.
Took him a year to get me converted over to it, but yeah,
Nice.
I know. But like that, I do the roller coaster thing, just like faith.
Yeah.
I fall out, and every now and then I eat a tortilla.
Flour.
I know.
Little sourdough bread.
Natalie, what you got? You got anything to ask David?
David, I have a question for you. I saw a video on your Twitter, and it was, I guess you're at a women's march. And
Oh, was
there's
it
a
recently?
gal- yeah. Did I dream that? There's a gal that told
She had her
you.
shaved head.
Uh-huh. And she said something about fear. Don't pay attention to facts. Pay attention to my fear of your MAGA hat. What?
Yeah.
Can you explain that to me?
Yeah, that was very interesting.
Mhm.
That was the Women's March in Los Angeles. I was there for Blexit, and it was a setup because they were literally right outside my hotel room when I woke up.
Yeah.
So I go out there, and I got my hat on, and I went right down to the middle where they started, or where they were finishing, and I just wanted to answer questions and talk. And this gal with a shaved head, it's interesting. I still have to share. I've been so busy. I haven't shared the part right before everybody saw me talking to her. She was jumping up and down, shouting and screaming and dropping F-bombs at my friend Derek, who was not getting through to her. It was just not clicking. And then I started talking to her, and within literally 15 seconds, it was like a total God thing. She gave me a hug, and then we kept talking, and then everybody sees the rest of the clip.
Mm-hmm.
So the rest of the clip is she's talking about we should listen to emotions and not, what did she say? She said, emotions are real. They're one removed from spirit. We don't need to listen to logic. And I'm thinking, okay, well, you're talking about emotions, or you're talking about fear, that's emotions.
Mhm.
Logics are facts. So we should listen to emotions and not facts. And she said, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's the problem. You can't trust your emotions. Emotions change.
Right.
So it was a very interesting dialogue that video went pretty crazy, but I still got to share the other part of it because at the beginning, she actually was at least listening to what I had to say. But then she brought up the MAGA hat. She's like, but that hat makes me afraid. Like, there's nothing to be afraid of.
Did you see? It was a headline. Just came out. Reed College, Reed University, whatever it is, Reed College. They have a new deal. If you want to be an RA, resident assistant that works in the dorms, and kind of a hall monitor that lives there and watches out for They said that they're now teaching them classes that they have to understand overt and covert white supremacy, signs of white supremacy, which goes everything from the hate speech and, of course, the derogatory terms, but all the way to the MAGA hat.
Wow.
And so so the RAs at the college have to pay attention to that. And I'm like,
It was equal to racial slurs. It was right up.
they
at the
said
top of
MAGA
that
hat was
pyramid.
equal to a racial slur, and that's ridiculous. I've never had a
So
MAGA hat.
ridiculous.
I just
I
want
never
to know
wanted
how
one
many-
until now, because now I just wish somebody snatched it off my head. 'Cause
Yeah.
then it'd be on.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
How many?
That's what I wait for. Walking through the airport, I wear my hat. I don't
You
wear
a
it
big
on
dude too.
I don't wear it on a day-to-day basis, but
Yeah.
when I travel, I wear it through the airports.
Yeah.
Because I want to
How
see the
many
reaction.
soy boys does it take to remove a MAGA hat from David
From
Harris?
David Harris.
I want to know.
So take at least 10. I'll
He
tell you
gonna
that
be a
right
bunch.
now.
Beta male. I love Jesse Lee Peterson. I was on his show. He's always going, beta male.
Yeah.
It's so funny. He's a mess.
Yeah,
but
he's
no,
funny.
yeah, we. I appreciate you, man. I appreciate your honesty and the fact that not only you've stood up and been a voice of logic and reason and common sense, but just like I said, you've taken the stuff and you've taken the pressure, but just the honesty about your faith. I mean, you're not perfect. You haven't been living you've
No,
ups and downs, and people need to hear that. They need to know that. It's a journey.
it is.
Yeah, life is a big old journey.
One of the best words I heard it put is it's a romantic journey of faith
Mm-hmm.
with God, because it is a journey, and it's supposed to be romantic with our Father.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be romantic with Him, but it's a journey. He's faithful.
Paul says that, you cry out Abba, Father, and Abba in Aramaic is phonetically one of the easiest words to say. It's one of the first words they would teach babies to say.
Daddy.
And they would take honey and they would put it in their mouth, and by pulling it out, they would kind of create that Abba sound.
Huh.
And they wanted the first words that came out of their mouth to be Father, Abba.
Well,
And that's an intimacy. It's a simple intimacy.
Yeah. Well, Abba is actually the intimate form of father, which is daddy.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And I love that Luke 15. You talk about the prodigal son. There's one, and which people think that that's one parable. It's not. First there was the lost sheep, then there was the lost silver, and then there was the lost son. And Jesus told all one big parable. The first one, with the guy has or the lost coin. There's 2 coins and drops one. Is a 50 or whatever it is. It's a percentage thing that's happening, and it gets bigger and bigger all the way to the son. You got 2 sons, and he loses it, and it's just bigger and bigger. And that's always been my thing. Is he's in the middle of this pig slop, sold himself out. Everything he's ever believed in, he sold out.
Yeah.
And he's just ruined. And it says, and he came to himself.
Yeah.
Came to himself. And that's what I hope that people, both politically, spiritually, mentally, all the way around, emotionally, would, if you listen to this, come to yourself.
Yes.
Come back to your senses.
Yeah.
And that's what I see you as a beacon and a voice in the world today that's shining brightly, just telling people, come back to yourself. And I appreciate that about you, man.
Thank you very much, Chad.
I love you.
Love you too,
Love
brother.
you,
I
bro.
appreciate you. Been watching you for a long time.
Yeah, I've been watching you,
appreciate your videos and your
good
candor
stuff.
and your directness and your quick-witted speech. Your
so
just
fast.
your talks, man. You
So
just fast. I'm like, blah, 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 blah.
My mother tells me to slow down all the time.
My mom used to tell me that.
But it's the shtick, you gotta.
No, it's
I
good.
used to do these videos, and I tried to do them in a minute and see how much I could say in a minute. And I don't know. Doing the podcast helps me slow down a little bit and just kind of think out loud. But why I couldn't stay silent.
Boom.
David Harris Jr. Go to davidharrisjr.com, and you're going to love this book. You got a pretty wife on the back. You can't get it. You just got to get the book. You say she's pretty. I can't believe she stuck with you all these years.
Yeah.
Boy, you
amazing
like me.
woman.
You married up. God bless you.
I
man.
sure did. Absolutely.
Go get it. Hey, also, while you're on the internet, you might as well go to blazetv.com/Chad. Use promo code Chad. Get an annual subscription, and you'll get all the content. Humor Me with Chad Prather is on there. In fact, we just did a recent episode while we were at CPAC on Black conservatives. The entire episode, 23-minute episode on Black conservatives, and we really had some powerful voices that spoke out on that thing. A lot of different perspectives. Everybody's got a different journey. So go get it, subscribe to it, and remember, where podcasts are offered, go subscribe, download it every week. We're here Monday through Thursday. Listen to it. And this is one you want to share with your friends. So go get the book, davidharrisjr.com, and go follow him on Twitter as well. You'll see the Twitter handle on the video there. Let's say it out loud for people that are listening. David J. Harris Jr. at David J. Harris Jr.
That's the same on all of them. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube.
On the gram. You see that lady got mauled by that Jaguar trying to take an Instagram? trying to take a selfie?
Is that what she was trying to do?
She tried to
I didn't
take a
know what she was trying to do.
Jumped over the fence.
Oh, man.
With a cat. With a cat.
I guess the wall was working to keep the cat
The
out.
walls work. Ain't that something? Anyway, hey, we love y'all. God bless you, and we'll check you out next time. Bye.